Welcome to Transform Now, the podcast brought to you by robotic process automation pioneer SS&C Blue Prism. Digital transformation has the potential to reshape the way companies service their customers, engage their employees, and manage their operations. Whether you're looking to develop strategies, tactics, or best practices to positively impact the future of work, or you're curious to see how other companies have successfully navigated their digital transformation programs, then this podcast is for you. We're here to help you transform now.
Hello, everyone. I'm Michael Marchuk. Welcome to Transform Now podcast. Our guest on this episode is Aron Clymer. Aron is the founder and CEO of Clymer, and he works with his clients to unlock the value of their data and create data heroes. He's worked with some very interesting clients, and hopefully we'll get to hear some more about that. Welcome, Aron.
Thanks very much, Michael. Great to be here.
Tell us a little bit more about your background, because obviously my little intro probably didn't do it justice, and also how you came up with this idea of creating data heroes within your clients.
Yeah, I have a kind of a long and storied background. At the end of the day, I'm a kind of a generalist sometimes. I like everything, and it's hard for me to focus on one area. I have 2 degrees in geology, for instance. I went straight into high tech after that. I've been in high tech ever since. Half of my career is enterprise applications and data management. And then this sort of second half right now has been data focused specifically. I really get my teeth on a lot of methodology around data, specifically data warehousing. And what you can do with data warehousing 10, 15 years ago is really more focused on internal analytics, business intelligence, dashboarding. I built the data team at Salesforce for about 7 years and really honed, a methodology around how do you actually get a lot of employees at a company to use data, change the culture of the company, be more data driven. And I really enjoyed just figuring all that out, as well as just best practices and design patterns in data warehousing specifically.
So you had a unique challenge to be able to aggregate all that and manage all that data in a way that would make sense from a service provider perspective.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Yeah, you're right. That in its own was a challenge, especially as the company grew. When I started, there was 3,000 people there. Left, there was 17,000. And the Salesforce cloud had evolved into a lot of stacks around the world. And so, yeah, physically getting the data into one place was a challenge.
I can imagine. So you've had the experience with talking with a bunch of other clients, which is great. And I'm sure what you found as you've talked with those clients is that some clients are probably better than others at managing the data they have now, whether it's like a pile of data or piles of data, plural, in multiple systems across the organization. How do you work with the IT teams to really support that, to help get them get a handle on that data that is across all of those different systems and make sense of it?
Yeah, that's what's so really enjoyable for me and enjoyable for all these companies actually is how fast you can go with it now because of these modern cloud technologies that are out there. So for instance, Snowflake is a data warehouse in the cloud. It's also a data platform as well, has a lot of different functionality. But the fact that it's pure cloud, infinitely scalable, you don't have to, there's so many things you don't have to do anymore. You don't have to spend a year planning capacity and planning out your system. You don't have to spend a ton of upfront time, even planning out your data model. You can just go and you can iterate quickly and you can fail fast and learn. So it really is very applicable toward an agile approach to things, which I like as well. So it's just much more palatable and you can get started quickly. So I always tell companies, whether you have a grand plan and you figured all this out already and you've thought through it, or you really don't know where to start, we can start pretty quickly and get some high value results out relatively quickly as well. So I just like the fact that you can really experiment and try things a lot quicker and you don't have to have very deep roadmaps and very thoroughly thought out detailed plans.
So they make it a lot easier for organizations to be able to adopt something that has those things built into it. But some of the thoughts behind having the data and then knowing what to do with it kind of don't, just because they have a platform doesn't mean you can actually do something with it. You may have a decent platform, but you may not be able to work with it. You've worked with a couple high profile clients, and I don't know if you can tell us a little bit more about them in a way that can show us the benefits that you brought to them by making sense of that data through these platforms.
Yeah, absolutely. We work with a wide variety of clients. We have a lot of major league sports teams, as well as plenty of financial, health tech, fintech companies as well. So we work across a variety of verticals. But in the sports world, for instance, the Las Vegas Raiders are one of our clients, and we bring together all their fan data into one place. And that's the design pattern of that applies to every industry, every company. Let's bring all your data together in one place. Let's normalize it and rationalize it. We actually do a master image data management process that dedupes duplicate records essentially. So in the sports world, we're all talking about fans. So the customer is a fan. So it's the fan golden record in a data warehouse where you clean up the fan data. So you have a single record for each fan and you have all of their journey with you in there as well. So then it's very easy to activate that and it's clean. So you're really having the best conversation you can with your fans and activating that to be able to really drive fan engagement across the board. And so just centralizing that data, cleaning it, modeling it in the right way the fan engagement has gone up by double digit percentage points. And even just the deduplication, some of the size of the fan base in the database has actually reduced by 15%, sometimes more for some of these teams because they had a lot of duplicate data. So now we know we have a clean record and it's much, much better for interacting with your fans. I think a lot of people think, hey, if I can just centralize my data, like the job is done, right? And that's where a lot of connector vendors like Fivetran, Matillion we work with often, they bring data into a data warehouse from 30, 40, 100 SaaS apps that your business might be running on to centralize that. And that is a great first step, but you're never done there. I think a lot of people think you may be done there. But the problem is the raw data is really hard to work with. It's just not very intuitive. It's hard to understand. And so often if you just let employees or end users access that data directly, nothing happens because you can't really interpret that data well. So there's a modeling piece to clean it up and make it user-friendly isn't a great way to think about it. Making it analytical friendly. We have plenty of clients where it used to be that just a handful of people, sometimes only one or two people in the entire company could actually query the data because they knew how it worked. They knew all of those nuances of the raw data. They knew how messy it was. They knew where the landmines were. They knew where the skeletons were buried, all that stuff. They could query the data and get you an accurate answer, but nobody else could. That's not scalable. And that's not a way to change your culture to be more data driven. So what's much more, and again, I love doing this stuff, is taking that raw data, cleaning it. And the key is to automate all of the rules around your data to make it clean. And you put the extra effort to create a bunch of automated work jobs or workflows that will clean your data, prepare it, and model it in such a way that it's very easy for end users to understand for a variety of cases. You could have your entire marketing team looking at it one way. Product team might be looking at it a little differently, but it's all the same basic data set. You automate all that, clean it up, and then you can have your entire company looking at this data on a daily basis, hopefully, and actually making most decisions with some input from the data so that your culture is really more data driven.
That's interesting. When you were saying that, what I was thinking of is like, I've watched the show Hoarders, and you have these houses that are filled with junk, and they'll ask somebody, well, can you show us where X is? And they'll walk them through this labyrinth and they'll open a drawer, and in the back of the drawer, they'll be able to pull out something because they knew exactly where it was. And even most of us have some kind of storage area, if you will, in our house that is probably applied the same way, where somebody knows where that one thing is, but finding it or being able to use it afterwards can be a challenge when you don't know where it is. And therefore you end up buying one or two or five more of those because you never can seem to find the right one. And it sounds like the same thing with data. If you're in a situation where you have these piles of data, and like you mentioned with the aggregator, they bring it all together. It's like sweeping everything into one big pile. And it's in there. But if you can't find it, maybe you just go build it yourself somewhere else because I don't want to have the time to go mess with it in that pile. Even if that's the right place for all the data, I can't use it. So that resonated with me as you mentioned that, hey, bringing these connectors to pull it all together, it could be good, but it can also just make a really big mess.
Yeah, that's a great point. And not only getting a clean data set that makes a lot of sense and it's easy to access, but the discoverability you brought up is a great point. That's also a problem, especially in a larger organization. You might have these great data assets, but if a lot of people can't discover them, quickly figure that out, the value is diminished. So there's yet more vendors that help with data discoverability. We work with a company, Aron, for instance, that allows data to be, it's the metadata about the data is really presented very easily to end users so they can discover, hey, what data sets do we have that would answer my sales questions? Or what data sets do we have that would answer my product questions, whatever it is, and help not only discover the data, but also define it too. Once you find a data set, the next question is, what does this really mean? What is this data about? Even specific field. That's the challenge of data, is really understanding it, because you can easily get the wrong answer if you're just not asking a question that data set can really answer, or you would think it means something that it doesn't. So data definitions, data dictionaries are also really important so that, again, end users can understand that self-service. the takeaway from all that really, I think, is best practices is self-service, data democratization across your organization. Because again, you want as many people as possible to actually be using it. You just want to be able to use it well and use the right data for the right question.
I tend to agree with that for sure. So you think about from an executive perspective, likely they may know that we use Snowflake or some other platform for data, but do they really understand what our company is doing with data? Do they understand the challenges that we face with understanding our customers or understanding our suppliers or where things are at in overall organization? So since CEOs and other executives, they're busy running the organization, they're doing the management, making the decisions about things. They may not understand the data management so much. So how do you get an executive to care about data?
I think the key is to make sure that they're applying data to the problem. And I think it's important to have all your teams make sure they're sourcing the data from the data warehouse. Step one, let's just make sure that data gets into a data warehouse and is sourced from the same place, because you got to have that single source of truth is important. Otherwise, you will get different answers from different people for the same kind of question. And you don't even know where the plane is flying anymore. You're not steering the ship. It's hard to steer the ship when you have lots of different numbers. So you really got to trust the data. And the only way to trust it is to come from a single source that is being invested in. I get that. I'd say, direct all the teams to be able to make sure that when they're showing you an answer, that it's coming from the same data warehouse, the same source. And the other thing is you can tops down try to mandate some things around data. So mandate that data is being brought to the table whenever there's a critical decision being made. Integrate data into your day-to-day processes as well. Again, making sure that people have access to the right data to answer their day-to-day jobs. But also when you're having your weekly meeting or your monthly strategy meeting, whatever it is, bring data to the table and hopefully live from your warehouse to support your story or answer the question you're trying to answer, and really embed data into, again, the business process that you have.
So when you talk about embedding data into business processes and building these data-driven outcomes for businesses, it sounds like you need to be a heavy, hardcore data scientist to really be able to get the insights that are locked away in all this data. How do you improve data literacy throughout the rest of the organization within the business roles to get them engaged?
Yeah. And that's the part I also personally enjoy, is that interpretation and making sure that there is, going back to a self-service data set that makes sense. So there's lots of ways to make the data easy to understand. You can exclude a lot of the nuanced stuff. You can have data sets that are very clear and clean and understandable so that most business users can self-service, just ask questions and get answers of the data. So that's one big thing, is that you can imagine most of the business modeling you do is still going to be in a spreadsheet. And it's because you're trying to simplify the problem and bring together a lot of complex data to simplify a problem, like a forecast. You're trying to forecast sales, or you're trying to forecast this or that. You're trying to model your business. You can bring your live, valuable, more complex data to the table and roll it up and get those answers in a clean way. It's true that, but that's why I take the data team. Really want a data team who understands the raw data and can do that modeling I talked about before to make it really just easy to understand and easy to use. That's one key thing. You don't have to be technical. Any vendors out there these days with some of the products that are out there to make things very easy for a non-technical end user to use data are awesome. So that's another thing, is that technology's come a long way to the point where, you don't have to be technical at all to be able to ask questions.
I guess when I look at some of the data too, we think of data, it's like a generic type of word or thought process. There's unstructured data and structured data. How can we leverage intelligent automation to support that proper data management, to maybe pull or extract some of that data from an unstructured source?
Yeah. And that's really the data engineering skill set right there. That's what my team does often, is we're going to take all that complexity of whether it's structured or unstructured or semi-structured, and no matter what the data source, that's not a problem. Like, it can be handled. At the end of the day, you do want it to come back into a structure that then is easy to use and understand, back to the data modeling piece itself. Goal of all of these projects should be to figure out the data that's important, there's usually quite a few data sources that you need to source from to get a clear picture of your business or your product, regardless of the structure of the data, essentially, and then regardless of where it lives and regardless of how hard or easy it is to get, that you take the time to automate a data pipeline to bring that into your data warehouse, manipulate it however you need to manipulate it to make it easy to use and understand and valuable. and just do that. And once you've done even a first version of that, and again, automation is key so that you can move on to the next thing and you don't need a massive team to support all this, which you don't. It's going to be running 24/7 and you can keep build on top of that. So then everything you do just adds value upon value because every new pipeline you're building or every new data source you're building is adding to the total value of the data set that you have. So you can abstract all that away in the data engineering world, the technical world. And at the end of the day, you still have data that's easy to use and you don't even have to know how it was structured originally.
Interesting. I imagine too, if you are able to take this data and bring it in and format it in a way so you're using your data modeling properly for your business, now you can apply some more advanced tools to it, whether that's machine learning to understand how the patterns are flowing through, or maybe AI to help you with your decisioning. How can you, I guess, structure or leverage AI and ML in data management, in analytics and dashboarding, that sort of thing?
Yeah. And I'm glad you brought that up because that's also a key piece to think about. When you're building a data warehouse, think of it as a data asset. And that's why it's worth putting the time and effort to take that raw data, structure it, get it all ready and get it clean. Let's just take an example going back to sports, right? To have a single golden record of every fan that's clean and easy to understand takes a little while to do that and takes some work, but it's really important and really valuable because once you have that, then you can layer on so many other things. Data science, AI, predictive modeling, all of that can go right on top of that. And it's like garbage in, garbage out with that stuff. If you have clean, trusted, nice data set to start with, or your AI or your predictive modeling, you're going to get clean and very accurate results out of it. So you can build all this stuff on top of it. The data warehouse is the foundation. Back to your house analogy, it's really the foundation of your house. And all of these other assets you'll build on top of that lead to actually taking action on your data and making a decision or running your company even is built on top of that foundation. And so you can't bypass those if you skip too many steps, which a lot of companies do. They want to get a model out real quickly, a predictive model, or do some AI quickly, and you skip it. You get some value in the short term, but then you have to go rebuild everything later. And when you have to do it 2 or 3 times again, then you're wasting a lot of time later down the road. So anyway, I think that's very important. And the other thing about the future of where this is going is that warehouses are becoming more and more critical for operations. So back to your question originally about, as an executive, why do you care about data or how do you get more focus on data? The answer is, once you have a clean data set of, say, your customers, which is usually an important data set to have, that warehouse is then actually the only place in your entire company where you have that 360-degree view of the customer. And so you realize, you need to activate that data, or you need to utilize that in your day-to-day operations for anything, for marketing, for support, for sales. And often quickly what companies realize is, I want to push that data back out into my operational system. I want to get that data back out in my CRM or back out in my marketing automation because that's the clean record of my customer. So if I want to activate it or action on it, I want to make sure I'm using the best data I have. And the warehouse is actually driving operations more and more these days. And ultimately where this is going is a lot of brand new cloud modern applications are being built directly on the warehouse. So you don't even have to move the data anymore. They just are querying it directly from the warehouse. And so you don't have to build a pipeline back out to these applications. So I think that's why data is important. And that's why you need to be thinking about how you can integrate data and data warehouses more centrally into your organization.
There's a couple of things you mentioned that I want to key off on. One of is you talked about leveraging AI to do the predictive modeling analytics on your interactions, et cetera. I can only imagine that if you have poor data, you would also have poor predictions or potential bias that enters in because of the way that you are accessing specific sets of data. You may get a skewed view of all of your customers based on that one set of purchases through a very small set of customers. So it could change the way your dynamics of how you sell, how you market, and how you manage your client interactions, just because you haven't looked at the totality of the data because you've got a bias to it. And the second thing I thought that not only struck me this time, but wouldn't we all love to have our customers be called fans? Seriously, I think everyone would love to have their customers feel like, hey, we're a fan of our company, or a fan of our services and our products. So when you said that, it just struck me like, I think that everyone would like that.
That is a great idea. We all use sports analogies. Let's take it a step further. And our customers are fans because they love us so much. Exactly. That's a good idea.
Exactly. So going on this whole excitement about stuff, you talk about creating a data hero. And I want to understand, what is a data hero? And is it only in IT, or can anybody in your organization really be that champion or that fan of your data?
Yeah, anybody. And the idea is that with a combination of the amazing cloud technology that's out there now that makes all of the work around data much easier and business friendly, it allows so many more people in the organization to have the opportunity to be a hero for their company from a data perspective. So yes, it could absolutely be, could be very IT and technical focused, but it absolutely could be an analyst, anybody in the company who is a fan of data, to use that phrase again, or it's just going to be a champion, can go out there and show the rest of the organization how to get the data in one place, how to then make it presentable, and then how to use it. Absolutely. So that's the idea, is that if you grasp onto this stuff and you focus on it, you can absolutely be a hero across the organization. And the other nice thing is with a lot of this modern cloud technology, much like Salesforce did as well in terms of paving the way of the cloud solution for CRM, is that a company of almost any size can take advantage of all of these, what used to be enterprise functionality, enterprise features. And even a small and medium sized business gets all of that functionality as well. And so it's another way for the business analyst or whoever to be a hero in the company to leverage all of these features and functionality. It's not even just the data or the technical side of things.
That's a good point to bring up, because I think that is the benefit of on a cloud side, is being able to not only have the scale of the operations and whatnot, but not everyone needs to have that kind of scale. There are plenty of businesses that fall in the SMB category, even mid-sized organizations, who don't necessarily have to have that kind of scale. But with the scale and with the advancements of other customers that are using the platform, it ends up driving innovation that can be leveraging across all of the organizations that take part in that particular platform, allowing them to benefit from all those innovations that they may not have even known that they needed because they didn't know they exist. So that's a really good point of understanding that way that platforms can help even small businesses.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And even the pricing models have been really helpful. A lot of these vendors have usage-based pricing. And so you're a small company, or you're not using that much, you're paying very little. You pay for a scale and you pay for the amount of usage. And so it really works well for both large and small companies.
Yeah, no doubt. No doubt. All right. Switching up gears here for our last question. What's the coolest job you ever had?
Very good question. It's the one I'm in right now, for sure. I love managing the whole company now. I love I told you I was a generalist at the beginning, and I like lots of things. So I like the variety of being able to manage a company, think about the data, but grow a company and be an entrepreneur at the same time. And of course, as I've grown up, I started the company doing everything myself. I am technical and I can do technical things. I would build out business intelligence systems for companies, now running Data Clymer and more focused on the growing the company and managing the company. So I love that too. So this is, I think, by far one of the coolest jobs I've ever had.
Like, you can tell your excitement for it. How do you spread that, or how do you inspire those who are working for you to have that same kind of excitement?
Oh, I think that there's just in general, getting out of your comfort zone a little bit, trying new things. I like within Data Clymer, we have lots of technologies we can try all the time, because the space is actually very fractured in a way. There's a lot of vendors to work with, a lot of technology to work with. So trying new things all the time, failing fast, and just learning by doing, and just trust yourself maybe even more than you do. But that's been my mantra. And I think that's the key to just success, is all this.
It certainly helps you grow both professionally and as well as personally as you try new things and try to branch out, expand your horizons. So,
right.
Well, Aron, it was
great.
Yeah, exactly. It was great to talk with you about all this. I really appreciate your insights on data and the necessary evils around managing data the right way so that you can actually extract the value that you have in these investments you've made. So I really appreciate your viewpoints on that and how you approach it from a global perspective, saying I want to see this data all together so we can really provide value to the whole organization, not just one or two areas. So that was great.
Great. Yeah. Thank you very much for having me on.
Thanks for tuning in to Transform Now. For more insightful discussions on digital transformation and more, check out our podcast channel where you'll find all of our previous episodes. And to make sure you never miss an episode, subscribe to the show on your favorite podcast player. And if you like what you've heard, please leave us a review. For more information about digital transformation and the future of work, check out blueprism.com to learn how SS&C Blue Prism's digital workforce is enabling enterprise transformation now.